What happened in the Austrian Grand Prix weekend? Hello everybody, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. That is round 3 complete. We're now toe deep into this sprint season, and we've only got one round left until we're halfway, and the short mid-season window for transfers opens up. I can't imagine we're going to see too many transfers in that time, but we'll have to see. As far as I know, no contracts end in that time, and they don't know. So any movements, they might see some transfers potentially if teams aren't too happy with their lineups currently. But as of what I have seen, there will not be any guaranteed changes. But yes, we've got one more round until we hit that mid-season break. It's going to be in Brazil, a brand new venue for XRS. It's going to be very exciting with obviously the change in the track, but also bringing in the idea of a sprint there as well. I'm looking forward to it, very much looking forward to it. It always like going to a new place. But we're coming back here to Austria, which we were, of course, visiting last season as well. One of my favourite weekends too. Definitely something that stands out for Austria is the fact that it's only got 10 corners. It's the shortest lap time on the entire, not just our calendar, but of the real F1 calendar as well. And it's so dominated by DRS. Of course, it's got 3 DRS straights on such a physically small track. In terms of, course, from turn 4 down to turn 10 is the only area where there's actually no DRS. Besides that, it's just DRS after corner after DRS. So what that enables, of course, is for the drivers that are more midfield or backmarker. This is similar to what I said in the last podcast as well. It enables those drivers to stay within the pack and stay within the fight and fight people that they won't usually be able to. And what that's actually resulted in is a lot of really good results for some of the midfield drivers, which is what I expected to happen, especially on the podium. We've got some really, not necessarily unusual, but drivers that we might not have expected to come out of the woodwork here and really performed in this track. And it's very, very exciting to see. I can't wait to talk about them. We are going to begin with Division 4. My driver winner genuinely cannot go to anyone else other than Calec. Unbelievably mature drive from Calec. He is evidently the fastest driver in the division. I think he's proven that. He's probably the best driver in proportion to their division in the entire league. Obviously, that has spurred up a lot of controversy about whether he does get moved up. His banker was a 3.9. That would have put him up in the top 3, I think, of Division 3. It certainly would have put him up there in Division 2 as well. Of course, everyone's entitled to their good tracks. Everyone's entitled to their favourite tracks. Absolutely, if it's his favourite track, then fair play. He also, just looking at results, to my memory, of course, he finished second, I want to say. Oh, he won Monza. Not on track, fair enough. But he did win Monza, and he finished third in Silverstone after a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He would have won that race had he not sped in the pit lane. So that would have been 3 back-to-back wins. It's very impressive. He's clearly a very mature driver. I have no doubt that he would be able to be competitive in the division above. I mean, naturally, that's what we expect, of course, with 4 divisions and the enormous array and different types of tracks there are available in F1. You naturally expect there to be some kind of overlap. I wouldn't be surprised if the top of all divisions will be able to be competitive in the division above. I don't necessarily think that they'll win races, but I think they'll be competitive nonetheless. There obviously is that conversation with Calec getting moved up, and the Haas boy is desperately trying to defend him. I do think that if Calec gets moved up, that's an enormous chunk out of Haas's income of points on a weekly basis. Obviously, they've been strong across the board, and that's why they're leading the OCC. But Calec, I think, has been their anchor, and it's been really, really good to watch him just get consistent points and just perform really, really well. That does obviously lead to worries about the fact that he is too quick for the division. Looking at the driver standings, yes, of course, 5 missed a race. The gap to him is 35 points. But even to P2 and Boldy, man, it's 29. And it's only been 3 races, which means he's averaging around 10 points more than Boldy is. It's upsetting, you know what I mean? Because I really was excited to see him fight for this title. And I thought that maybe, no disrespect to the drivers that aren't beating him and are losing to him, but I thought there would be more of a fight. I thought that they would be able to bring themselves up to it. But that's a appreciation of Calec and how incredible of a driver he is, how consistent he is. So yes, the conversation came to me and Raven, especially during that entire weekend, but especially on the Thursday night when the race happened, about will Calec get moved up? I think that there's a bit of tunnel view going on. I think that if we were to move Calec up now, not only would it put Haas in, and it not an uncomfortable, not a terrible decision, because they've got an incredible lineup, disregarding Calec. However, it is taking a big chunk out of their income, and it's unfair in a sense. And the worry is the Haas just turn around and say, well, it's Ferrari bias, isn't it? Because Ferrari are competitors of them in the OCC and in Division 4 constructors. You can turn around and say Ferrari bias. You're moving him up because he's a challenge for you. He's a challenge for you. And I think that obviously, absolutely no way are we biased. Of course, it is unfortunate in that sense, because me and Raven, who are obviously owner and head admin of the league, do both drive for Ferrari. So obviously we expected that kind of criticism when I joined the team. But of course, it's not a decision just between me and him. We introduced the decision to the admins, who obviously drive for their various teams. We would be more than happy to introduce the mods into conversation. Obviously, it is a reoccurring thing, and that's kind of expected that everyone who doesn't drive a Haas wants it moved up. Everyone that does drive a Haas doesn't want it moved up. So it's there's nothing, no surprise there. I think even Haas will admit that he is especially quick for that division. I'm more than happy to give him Brazil. I actually pushed for him to be able to drive in Brazil Division 4. I think that 4 races into the 8-race season, I think that's a good amount of points that Haas benefit from him being, quote-unquote, too fast. Beyond then, it'll be a discussion point. That's mid-season. That's when me and Raven will talk. And he may get moved up. The discussion following him potentially getting moved up, of course, his points will be halved, because he's not allowed to just get all his points from a lower and, I hate to say it, but easier division, and then come up and fight with the big boys. So what like that, unfortunately, his points will be halved. However, we did discuss, and this is obviously the first time I've moved anyone up mid-season. Of course, Millard was in conversation, Liam was in conversation, Casper was in conversation last season. None of them actually went through. Calec has been a real standout. It's a different situation between him. He is genuinely too fast on all occasions. His points will be halved. We decided in this league we might change it up a little bit, and we might give Asteroid, the Haas DP, an option to sign him and drop one of his current Division 3 drivers for free. So that might be a threat potentially if we follow through with this rule and add it to the rulebook and make it become a thing. That if Calec moves up, CGM Glass or Failing's seat might genuinely be in threat, because Calec, let's not forget, drove for Haas last season. He's built a relationship with that team. Failing did not drive for Haas last season. CGM did not either. He drove for Mercedes. Failing drove for Williams, and in the division above anyway, and he's come down. So absolutely, both their seats are under threat. It's down to Asteroid to whether he even signs him. He might not sign him. He might not want to see the risk of a driver who's not proven himself. But yes, that is the discussion that Asteroid will have to have with his team, and it's a big one. Assuming he gets moved up. He might not get moved up, we don't know. But at this current stage, in this current rate, and how he's performing as well, which is very, very strong, then it is looking like Calec might get moved up. Which does, on a benefit of an entertainment point of view, open up one of the closest title fights I think the entire league has. Looking at Boldy downwards, we've got 5 Wires who's 6 points behind. Vlad and K1 Yo, the 2 Alpha boys, who are 10 and 13. Jamie's 14, he's had some poor races. Dan, 23, and he's incredible. And he's got a lot of pace left to show, because he's definitely got unlucky as well. Isaac following his podium, and I'll talk about him in a minute, only 27. We've got some really good drivers, some really big names in this division, and I do think that Calec is almost robbing it of a potentially really good title fight, because he's genuinely too good, and he's a very, very established driver. I'm excited to race it against him if he does get moved up, but he might not. It is a discussion we're going to have at some point. He is my driver winner, though. Absolutely flawless victory from him. I do want to give a shout out to Isaac Pecking, the brother of champion Casper Pecking. That is, I believe, to my little stats, that's Alpine's 5th podium ever. They are obviously the least successful team in XRS history. Of course, they came 10th last season. They're currently in 10th in the OCC again. They're looking once again just as weak as they did last season. But Isaac getting a podium as a breath of fresh air. That's what I meant to say. Really, really good. Isaac is arguably their best driver. I mean, definitely one of their best anyway. They've actually, in the grand scheme of things, not got a bad lineup whatsoever. But exactly what I said in the predictions video, the standards of of the league has just gone up. Every lineup is just so much better that it's difficult to compete. I do think that this team, had it been last season, would have finished maybe, I don't know, 5th, 6th, 7th, that kind of area. But now in the new league with the standards higher, not so lucky. But yeah, absolutely, really, really good podium from Isaac. Really, really benefited off the late safety car and found the opportunity to get through Alpine's 5th podium, and that's an exciting idea. I'm a big Alpine fan, so I'm happy that they're doing well. My driver loser 100% is Vlad. It qualified 4th, was fighting for the win. Really, really good start to the race. Really mature start to the race. He was looking for the win. I know it's a favourite track for him. Unlucky with the spin. I don't know what happened. I don't think there was contact with Calec. I don't think there was. But spun on the exit at turn 7 and or turn 8, I should say. And from there, it was just a difficult road ahead. He was out of the race for the win. Stayed out on the old tyres when the late safety car came out, which just kind of dragged him down. I think he might have got a post-race penalty, which demoted him down to 10th. I mean, considering he was fighting for the win and it went down to 10th. I mean, of course, some of those errors were unforced. Some of them, unfortunately, I think he got into some contacts. I want to say with Baldy, he got into some contact at the end of the race. It's unfortunate. It's what it is. But we know what Vlad can do. He's going to come back. He's a front runner in this division, and it'll show what he can do. My team winner. I've written down Alpine because I'm just so happy they got a podium. But that seems like a bit of a dead response because I have talked about them. So I will say Haas. 1-2. Haas is 1-2. I believe the first 1-2 of the league as well in this season. So that's a big celebration for them. They've scored max points, I believe, with Jamie qualified 3rd. He missed out on 2nd, so they missed out on 1 point. Still, nevertheless, an enormous bag of points, which kind of just proves my point. Calec is doing what he was told to do. Haas are benefiting off him being in a division where he seems to be finding it easier than the others. So that's good for them. It's good for them in the grand scheme of things. Got the fastest lap as well. Jamie, exactly what I said in Silverstone. A difficult race from him based on mistakes. He got to start fresh, and he's proved he's one of the fastest in the division. If Calec moves up, and I don't want to sound blunt, but if Calec stays down, he's going to win the title. Although I said the same about Liam, and he didn't win the title either, let's be fair. But making the assumption that Calec wins the title, because I do think he will. If he gets moved up, I genuinely have no idea who will win, because there is an incredibly small margin between Boldy, Five Wise, Vlad, Dan, K1Yo, Jamie, Isaac. I'd argue Cajun if he stops being just good at quali. Bays can make his comeback. Pistol's not too far off on that pan of pace. Absolutely, there's an enormous variety of drivers that could fight for this title. So that might be an opening for Jamie to not only take kind of lead driver role in Haas, whoever they replace Calec with, but also potentially take a title home. So I think that's an opportunity for him. Unfortunately, he's losing his teammate though. Team loser, absolutely Ferrari. That's the first race in XRS history where Ferrari's come back with 0 points. Of course, Five Wise unable to race. They brought in a reserve. He qualified 13th, finished 17th. Bays qualified 11th, finished 16th after spinning on his own. Very poor. I hate to speak badly of him because not only is he my friend, but he was my first and only previous teammate in XRS. Of course, my teammate last season, but very poor. I can't lie. I think if Bay's on prime, he would beat Calec. But these little mistakes he seems to be struggling recently with. Of course, he made a mistake in Silverstone, spun in the first corner in the wet, which put him on the back foot for the remainder of the race. Similar situation here. Once you get into a spin, obviously I'll talk about my race when I got spun at turn 1. Getting back into the DRS is impossible because they have such an enormous speed boost for the majority of the lap that it's painful. He put himself into a difficult situation. Other people, I'm sure, put him into a difficult situation as well. A race to forget for Bays for sure. I don't think he's out the title fight, but I think he's on the back foot for sure. We're going to move on to Division 3. Let's go. I usually cut at this point and say move on to Division 3. I just thought I'd go with the flow and just carry on talking. My driver winner is going to be my old nemesis. Is going to be Matt. Really well done. Really well done. Matt's had a difficult start to the season. It's a familiar face for him to be on the podium. Well, I do think that it should have been my face on the podium and not his. Yes, fair play, fair play. I am excited to see what he can cook up for the remainder of the season. He's supposed to be a front runner. He finished second last season for a reason. and absolutely he should be a title fighter for us. Good to see him back on the podium. Good to see him have some good results. I'd like to give a shout out to Liam. I didn't give Liam driver winner because he didn't finish P2 or better. And that sounds really harsh, considering Liam is, quote-unquote, a midfield driver. He moved up from the lower division. How on earth is he finishing, in the top 4 is unreal. My standards for Liam are high. He was one of a handful of drivers, I think 2 or 3, that, like I said, just like Calec, were told to move up because they were too quick. He got unlucky with losing last season's championship based on his own mistakes. He's come into Division 3. Evidently, being around faster drivers is improving his own driving. I'm actually going to bring up the results right now because I am curious, because I haven't actually fought Liam yet. I finished 11th in Monza, and then back-to-back 4th, Silverstone and Austria. Mature is all I can say. I mean, he seems like he's got his head screwed on as opposed to last season. The reason I haven't given him driver winner is because I think he genuinely should have finished top 2. I mean, the entire of the race, he was right behind Alfie, and he was fighting Cranks and of course himself in that fight. It was a battle for the top 3. I appreciate CGM got lucky getting those 9 seconds removed, but I mean, he was pushed off. So I absolutely agree with the removal of him. And there wasn't a safety car, so if there was a safety car, it'd be a different story, but there wasn't, so he did that on pace. So CGM finished where he should have been anyway, and I don't actually know how Matt got past Liam. I think it might have been through a 3-second penalty, which is, I mean, that's an unforced error from Liam. So, obviously, it sounds harsh because it should be like, oh my goodness, Williams, and it sounds like me, I love a lower team getting a good result. So, Williams getting a P4, unreal. I'm holding Liam to high standards. He was fighting for a top 2. 4th is still incredible. The top 2 would have been unreal. You know what I mean? That would have given him the driver winner for sure. I've lent towards Matt because he stayed off penalties and was just very consistent, and he's had his comeback drive today. That was his really good race. But Liam absolutely is my second driver winner, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can cook for the rest of the season. My driver loser absolutely cranks. Incredible quality lap. I qualified P3, was on provisional for a little while. Unbelievable. He moved up from Division 4, so again, just like Liam, he's got weight on his shoulders to be to proving himself in a higher division. He absolutely did. He fought with Liam. I think that brought back a bit of nostalgia for the commentators. Of course, Liam and Cranks last season in Austria battling brought up a lot of controversy and a lot of anger after they crashed a couple times. Nice and clean by those two again. Excuse me. But Cranks, I think, made a mistake on the side of a Haas, spun into the wall, and that kind of ended his chances of winning the race, or at least fighting for it. So a driver loser for me. My team winner, Alfa Romeo. I cannot believe, right, Dodo, and you know what it is, right? I know exactly what it is, right? And this is a call out for every other team principal. Dodo is doing you, and I will explain what that means, right? So Alfa Romeo's lineup currently is Mr. Fetch and MCL. Mr. Fetch, fair play, because he wasn't supposed to be good, and then he turned up and was really good. Mr. Fetch had a difficult season last season, especially closer to the end, where he was making unforced errors and getting poor results. It was a bit of a funny one. I think you can admit that as well. It's a bit of a funny one. There was pre-arranged agreements that he would be coming to either Alfa Romeo or Ferrari for Season 2. And of course that left Pink without a seat. Pink outperformed him last season. And that was an interesting one that it made that decision. He is absolutely outperforming Pink this season. And he's come through with really good results. I mean, he's ahead of me in the championship. He's second and I'm third by 1 point. So he's doing something right. You know what I mean? On the other side of the garage, I have MCL, who is arguably... it's easy to say he's top 3 in the division. I mean, in terms of pace, I don't know about the new people coming in, but at least last season he was top 3 and consistently top 3. I mean, he obviously had his bad races, but he was a good driver, very consistent. He's missed the first 3 races of the season due to being on holiday, doing his own thing. So they've had to bring in 3 reserves, right? Owls in Monza. Good choice, considering how well he did in Monza last season. Qualified 14th, finished 14th. Unfortunate. In Silverstone, they brought in Kua, who qualified 5th, not too bad. Dropped to 10th in the sprint, but they made it back up to 5th in the race. So big bag of points off a reserve. So that's very fortunate for them. Then in Austria, they bring in Abualf, who qualifies first and wins the race. I'm giving Alfa Romeo driver winner. Less so because of Mr. Fetch, because P7's okay. You know, P7's alright. They probably would have preferred a bit higher. P7's alright. But the fact that they keep picking the right reserves, and it's put them, I think they must be P2 in the Constructors' Championship in Division 3. Yeah, they're P2. They're P2, taking it off reserves. They're ahead of Haas, taking it off reserves. Fetch has done great, but the other half of the garage has been reserves, and they've absolutely cooked with it. And the situation they have now, right, is on paper, their disadvantage should have been those first 3 races, because they have to deal with 3 reserves for 3 of the races before they can bring in their Starboy MCL. Now they're in a good position because they pick good reserves, and they now get MCL back again. You know what I mean? So the disadvantages become an advantage. Yeah, Dodo's absolutely smashed it. In terms of reserves, he absolutely deserves a team winner for that. I think that's the first team winner that's been based off someone who didn't actually drive in the race. But yeah, fair enough. My team loser, I have given it to Red Bull. They finished 13th and DNF. Both of them have their own stories. Morgan or Kua was up fighting at the front, but I got hit with a couple of penalties to put him down to 13th. And of course, Cranks, like I said, who was my driver loser, qualified high and just a little mistake with the Haas at turn 4, and that put him not in a wall, but out of the race for sure and out of contention. So, unfortunate for him. Right, we go on to the Saturday division in the wet race that was Division 2. This race gave me, genuinely gave me depression. I cannot even put into words how excited I was to commentate again. I obviously, due to my exams, I've been more time restrained, basically, with what I do. Obviously, as you notice, all these podcasts come out at random times. I'll sometimes get the podcast out on a Monday or a Tuesday. Sometimes they'll be out the day of Division 4, you know what I mean? I've been a bit all over the place, and I apologise for that. But my time is very much restrained in preparation for exams. What that's also restricted me of is doing commentary. I've done Division 4 Silverstone, which I won't lie, hold my hands up, my head will be big, was very good. I really enjoyed that race, good commentary. But I was excited to come into the comments box and do Austria Div 2. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of commentating Austria because it's very much based on DRS trains. There's not an enormous amount of wheel to wheel. You might see it on the exit turn 4 and down through 5, 6, and 7. But beyond that, it's a lot of DRS, a lot of sometimes dives. They sometimes get a bit lazy as well. And so it's not my favourite track to commentate, but I was just excited to commentate, you know what I mean? Division 2 is an incredible division as well. However, my Wi-Fi, my internet died halfway through. When I tell you, I tried everything. I brought in a new Xbox and had to try and fix it up. And obviously, what I was trying to do was not join the lobby too many times. I joined it like twice. When I got disconnected initially, I reconnected twice, and I left big intervals in between, really desperately trying not to cause a red flag or cause issues inside the race. And unfortunately, I think I did, which I honestly, I cannot believe. I was so upset. They red flagged it, the race got chaotic, it got Division 2 like. I would have loved to commentate over it, but unfortunately I couldn't. I will be back to commentate, I will be back, goodness me I will, because I love commentary. I enjoy commentary more than I enjoy racing, so absolutely I'll be back. I mean, Brazil's not... You know what, no, actually I shouldn't jump to conclusions, because I have never commentated a Brazil race. I can't imagine it would be incredible, but actually, genuinely, it might be. Because Brazil's a good racing track, so sure, go on, why not? I'll try and jump in one for Brazil, if I can. If I am available to, I will 100% try to. But anyway, apologies for making a big kerfuffle about it. Driver winner, Jonas, unreal. What a signing from Red Bull. Of course, it was lucky. Unless Blake did some underground development consideration, thinking time, it was lucky. They bought him a 30 mil and he's won the race and leading the championship. Unreal. Jonas, and this is what I said about Division 2, is that, and actually Division 3 as well, it's not just winning a race, it's about being consistent in doing it. Malachi's leading the championship and hasn't won a race yet. You know what I mean? And Jonas has now, of course, won his race, qualified 8th, which is alright. I mean, for a Red Bull, that's golden, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, absolutely, to win the race is unreal. My driver loser is Boom Boy. I don't know if you haven't watched the clip of his DNF, for your entertainment purposes, I hope you do. It's given me I've actually given team loser to AlphaTauri as well. Thomas finished 16th and outside the points and qualified 18th, which isn't great anyway. Boom Boy qualified 15th on one of his best tracks and DNF'd with Asteroid. Well, not with Asteroid, but because of Asteroid though. And my decision's kind of off the fact that they were so good in Monza and finished all on 1-3 and had the constructors lead in Division 2 by an absolute country mile. It's unfortunate. They get 0 points now. It's kind of evened out now. They got a huge batch of points in Monza, and they got absolutely nothing in Red Bull Ring. But yes, if you haven't watched the clip of Boo Boy's DNF, Asteroid dropped it on the exit at turn 10, and he like flicked it. Obviously, because if you imagine, if you spin on the outside curb of turn 10, it will obviously spin you to the right. He caught it, but he overshot the catch and slipped back left again and cut across the track and took Boo Boy out on the main straight. So very, very unfortunate. It was genuinely just unavoidable. In my opinion, I think it should have been a penalty. I think Asteroid's got off very lightly there because he's dropped it and taken someone out. I think Boom Boy had absolutely no options in that scenario. But yes, Boom Boy, driver loser. My team winner was Ferrari. After one of the worst weekends of Ferrari history, of course, me and Malachi running last and second last for a little while after I got spun and Malachi forgot how to qualify. And of course, Division 4 actually scoring no points. We needed a good result from Division 2. 4 and 5, fine. You know what? Fine. They got the most points in Division 2, I think. It's close to Alfa Romeo. And it's good points, you know what I mean? From 10th and 13th, which is already quite poor for a Ferrari, up to 4 and 5. I think they'll take it. It's just a good batch of points, isn't it? That's exactly what Ferrari need. They need to turn it up. I say we need to turn it up because Alfa Romeo and Haas are cooking us. It's not even close. Haas are on form right now, so definitely something to sort out. And finally, we're going to talk about Division 1. I mean, actually, as of recording this, Division 1 results haven't actually been done. I think they're being done currently. And actually, while we're talking about that, big shout out to all the mods, all the moderators doing their thing. Thank you very much. We are very appreciative of your hard work. You'll be getting much more talked about you in the coming future. But yes, we're going to talk about... I actually looked at the OCC. Goodness me, that is a criminal OCC. I cannot wait to talk about that. Right, yes, Division 1. Driver winner, Calec. How is he on the podium? And actually, I've given team winner to Red Bull as well. I think, if my maths are correct, after penalties, it's a 3-4 for Red Bull, and Calec is on the podium. Why? How is that a thing? Fair play. Fair play. I have nothing but respect. Calec has absolutely smashed it. He's actually become a good driver. It's not even like he's become... I could be like, oh, he's become such a fast driver. He's just become a useful driver. He was so bad. He was genuinely the worst driver. The most dangerous driver I've ever seen in my year and a half of league racing. Genuinely the worst driver ever. And he's not only safe, but he's good now. I mean, he was good back then. He was decent back then. But goodness me, he was useless. But yes, fair play to Calec. Great driving. Great podium. Very deserved. Could Calec win the championship? No, but he is doing quite well in it. He's currently 6th. Fair. I don't really know how you're 6th. I don't know what you've done, but fair play, because he's doing very well at it. Driver loser Tonio. This man actually cannot catch a break. He has been done over in every single race somehow. At least in Monza, for goodness sake. At least in Monza, he finished in a good position, but he was like, he could have won. He got pole and could have won, but had poor tyres and Sleek caught him and got past on the final lap. So it's a bad taste in the mouth, but fair. If you move down to Silverstone, where he got spun by Tano in the feature race, after he got pole again and got second in the sprint, again lost to a Haas, but never mind. And then got spun by Tano in the feature race and dropped down to 8th, but he still got the fastest lap with the comeback drive. Then coming to Red Bull Ring, I can't lie, he's going to finish, I think, 6th or something, but he was on the running to win the race the entire time, got a 3-second penalty for unforced errors, and then his game crashed and he disconnected for the last 2 laps, and that demoted him from, I think, 2nd to 6th or 7th. This man cannot catch a break. For the love of God, and I know he's Brazilian, for the love of God, let him win his home race. He's had pole, I think, every single race. I don't know if he got pole in Red Bull Ring, but he got pole for the first 2. So for goodness sake, give this man a break. And he's leading the championship still. This is what I'm saying. You just have to have 2 decent results, or 3 now decent results, and you're up there at the front of the title fight. That's how incredibly close these divisions are, except for Calec. And yes, finally, my team loser is going to go to Williams. Supra, I think, dropped on his own and then retired on track. Tixi got into a couple of incidents, I think, with Tano. Some of them were very avoidable. I think that some of them were a bit lazy. He seems to be one of the more aggressive drivers in the division. I've never actually noticed it myself, but a lot of drivers have been saying it post race, and now I think we saw kind of like the beginning aspects of it. He's a bit too keen. He's a bit too energetic to go for track position. He's still a very good driver. I'm not taking anything away from him. He'd beat me any day, but you know, I when I first initially saw that Williams lineup at the start of the season, I looked at Tixie and thought, right, he's gonna be the big bad points. You know what I mean, for Williams. And I don't even think he didn't race in Silverstone. I know he didn't race in Silverstone. In Monza, I don't think he raced either. Elias. So this was his first race of the season, actually coming back after, I believe, winning Abu Dhabi last season at the end of the season. Excuse me. And I don't think it's an amazing way to come back to racing. I think he's going to get around P7, which is, in the grand scheme of things, all right for Williams. I don't know, though, because the penalties kind of went haywire for him. I don't know what the gaps were. I hope it's decent points, because Williams have got a real potential coming up, but I can't imagine it's the points that he should have gotten had he been a bit more careful. Right, we're going to have a little look at the ACC. Unfortunately, like I said, Division 1 results haven't been done yet. So, ignoring Division 1 results, Haas have got a 7-point lead on Alfa Romeo and a 60-point lead on Ferrari. They've had a really weak weekend. So I keep saying me. We've had a weak weekend. It's going to have to be all hands on deck for Brazil. We need to scrap this back. It's a sprint weekend. 60 points, you can make it a sprint, to be fair. We've seen those kind of jumps in the past. That's what we need to do. Battle for P4 looking pretty strong between AlphaTauri and McLaren. The gap is only 9 points. I'm burping here. And then, of course, Williams in a tight fight for P6 with Aston Martin, who are 5 points behind, Red Bull, who are 6 points behind, and Mercedes, who are only 27 points behind. Like I said in the sprint, 60-point gap is absolutely close downable. The fact that everyone in that kind of further back area is so close. Even if you consider the battle for P4 and 6 to be close, the gap between them is only about 32 points. So genuinely, I don't see why Williams, Aston Martin, Red Bull can't have a good result and try and involve themselves in that fight for P4. It's really close in that midfield. I do think that Alpine have trailed off the back. They've only got 65 points and they're already 43 away from P9. They have trailed off, and I do think the front three have trailed off as well, up into the distance. But absolutely, the 6 remaining teams in the middle, from P4 to P9, have at it. Because the gap between you, the maximum gap is 68 points, and that is 100% closable in a sprint weekend. So I wish you all the best of luck in Brazil. Brand new track for XRS, Interlagos. We all know the incredible racing you can make there. It gets twisty and tight into Sector 1. Of course, you've got two DRS strips, one of them being enormous. And of course, the high wing is going to make that a real important overtaking point, turn 1. Please be careful with it, for goodness sake. And of course, track limits is going to be a big issue as well, especially with some of the twisty corners in Sector 2, where you might just accidentally cut the inside. Of course, turn 2 as well, going back down the hill, down the center S's, you can turn in a bit too early and cut that corner as well. I think it's going to be a consistency game, and I think it's going to be a consistency game more in the sprint as well than people realise. Brazil's going to be interesting. A lot of wheel to wheel. I cannot wait to go. Let's head down to South America for round 4 to conclude the mid-season. Let's have at it. Looking forward to it. See you guys later.